Hello, hello. Welcome to the 11th episode of the Veggies Abroad Vegan Travel Podcast with the Chief Veggie Pusher, myself, Rebecca Gady Sawicki. Some of you may already be familiar with Veggies Abroad, but for those of you who aren't, we're a full-service vegan travel company that offers custom planning services, small group trips, a helpful blog chock full of just about everything a vegan or veg-curious traveler could possibly need to plan an adventure, and also this podcast. With this podcast, I hope to bring you guys the inside scoop of what vegan, vegan-friendly, and eco-friendly businesses are doing in the wide world of travel. Plus, I'll give you the full download of what's going on behind the scenes at Veggies Abroad. So I'm recording this right on the heels of a very successful Planted Expo adventure in Toronto. And I'm next level tired. Hopefully it doesn't show through too badly in my voice. I had to pump myself up a little bit. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get this podcast recording done either, because after all of the talking over this past weekend, my voice has been wrecked. Halfway through our first day, I thought, oh my God, am I going to be able to talk tomorrow? I could feel that it was starting to go. I'm very glad for a lot of water and hot tea, and I think a bit of a miracle. But that is a way better problem to have than the opposite, which is always a fear when you're doing events that nobody will show up. Planted was the first vegan event that I attended as an exhibitor, and it didn't disappoint. The team behind this event really deserves a full round of applause. They did an awesome, awesome job. They actually probably set the bar a little too high for all of the others that will follow that I might attend. Some of you might also be tuning in after meeting us this past weekend. Welcome. It's so nice to meet you guys. For all of our newbie listeners, if there's anything that you ever would like to hear or know, please reach out to me. I want this podcast to be as valuable to you as possible. So aside from the expo, we're also getting close to finalizing a few tours for 2025. I'll give you a little inside scoop. One of them will be a return to Thailand in January of 2025. Last year's trip went so well, and there was such great interest in it that I couldn't not bring it back. There will be a couple of new bonuses for the trip as well, too. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of our upcoming trips or announcements for them, make sure that you sign up for our newsletter. I always announce them there first. Okay, let's get moving on to today's episode. I had the chance to chat with the mastermind behind Berlin's popular vegan food and sustainability tours. It was awesome to learn more about her sustainability coaching and how she infuses that into showing visitors Berlin's vegan scene. If you've ever been thinking about visiting Berlin or didn't realize that it's one of the most vegan-friendly cities in Europe, this episode has your name all over it. Manja is a Harvard-certified environmental educator, a Berlin-based activist, and founder of the Green Living Academy, where she offers vegan tours through Berlin and an online course on sustainable living. She has worked with companies and organizations like Apple, Oatly, and the German Federal Association for Sustainability, and currently works with the German celebrity Eckhard von Hirschhausen to make climate action a priority in German politics. It is her mission to see people on the planet thrive together. She is known for her non-judgmental, hands-on approach to teaching, where she makes her students and guests feel supported. Now, let's get over to the interview. So much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. There's no better place in the world to talk about veganism and sustainability than Berlin. And I think you are the best person to have this conversation with.
I hope so.
I love a good adventure, but I'm not so sure I love an adventure when it comes to business. But that is exactly what you went on to start the Green Living Academy. Can you share a little bit about how and why you started the company?
Yeah, my journey was very interesting. My journey to veganism was very interesting, but also to building my business. So I traveled a lot, and that's what got me started with veganism. In the first place, I was traveling down the west coast of Australia in a 4-wheel drive with a rooftop tent for 10 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's just me, my fiance, back then boyfriend, and nature. So it was like a full immersion of, just us in nature. And it was beautiful and just really connected me to this world that I really wanted to protect. And all that got me started. I started reading books on veganism, environmentalism, etc. And I just realized that's what I want to contribute to the world, and that's what I think I can communicate. And when we got back, I decided to start a business. There was obviously a bit of ups and downs in between that. It's always easy to say, and then I started my business. But obviously, there's a lot in between those steps. But essentially, I decided that I wanted to have something in Berlin where people could have veganism be something else than it's something I'm taking away. It's something that we're really judgmental about. I just felt like I could give this unique perspective on the topic, and I felt that food was really great. So that's why I started the vegan tours, to really have that connection with people, to share food, to share stories, and to just see beyond all of this. We're taking stuff away and you're not good enough if you're not, vegan and whatnot. So, and it's been working really great. So that's kind of why I started the Green Living Academy. And then I extended that by adding an online course where people can learn how to live more sustainably. And everything kind of lives under this roof of non-judgmental and having fun and like just being real, honestly, just not, just the realness of it. And people can come to me and they can really say, I'm really struggling with this, or I'm vegan like 5 days a week, but I can't do the other few, and that kind of thing. So that's really where I start, and where people really feel comfortable to speak to me and to go on that journey, and to have these success stories where they go vegan over time and they just learn all this good stuff about green living that they probably wouldn't have tried because they were so scared, because there was such a barrier to enter.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important, to give people an easy entry point. And then once they kind of work through it a little bit themselves, then you're just like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
So when you left Australia and you came back to Germany to start this, was, Germany in a place like it is today as far as focusing more on sustainability, and was kind of open arms, like, yes, this is going to be an easy transition to do this? Or was it the exact opposite?
No, I think, but you have to see, Berlin is a bubble. Like when you live in Germany, you say, I live in Germany, or you say, I live in Berlin, because it's a difference. Germany is still, if you're in the countryside, and really that already begins when you just kind of go outside of the Berlin, center already. Mm-hmm. It just becomes less vegan friendly for sure, and less sustainable. But within Berlin, it's really amazing. That's why I can only recommend to anyone to visit the city if you're vegan or interested in sustainability, because there's so much happening. We have our politics sitting here, so that has a big, big impact. People from all around the world come to Berlin to find purpose and to really, get engaged with something. There's so much activism here. So really, when I started doing the tours and building the Green Living Academy, there was already a lot to build on, and there was a lot of movement in the sustainability bubble that we live in here. So yeah, it wasn't like there was a really big barrier that I felt like I had to overcome, and no one wanted it, or no one was interested. So there was definitely movement, but it has grown a lot. So it's become much more popular for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. That really helps. It's always really difficult, when you are really passionate about something and you go somewhere nobody else is, or you have like governmental red tape, or like, just even the general paperwork to get stuff done. That can take your passion down.
Absolutely. And that part, it's still Germany, right? We're all about bureaucracy and paperwork. So getting started with a business in Germany is not easy. There's definitely a lot of friction, but you do it and it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you overcame it and handled all of it to be where you are today. So when a company like Oatly comes to you, are they generally struggling with where to start with sustainability, or is it a specific project, or is it all of the above?
It depends, really. With Oatly, my contact with Oatly was actually they were from California. They were let me try that again, because I have to think about what their they were customer satisfaction. I think that's what it was. Sorry, because it's
Okay.
English. Sometimes I have to.
No, that's okay. You're
like,
doing
wait,
very well.
Thank you. So with Oatly, it really it depends. They came to me from California. It was the customer satisfaction reps that came over, and they were trying to figure out what they could do so they could keep Apple customers. Sorry, oh my gosh, I'm completely mixing this up with Apple now.
No, that's okay. You can also be very general as well. It's
I know,
not a
don't
problem.
do it. I'm completely mixing it up now. Again, third try. So with Oatly, it was really coming from different perspectives. They wanted to have something they could do with their team and they could do with team members as an activity, because they are already very sustainable. And I'm sure anyone who knows the company, they do a lot. Especially they also get involved in politics. And of course, anything they do, they try to do under a sustainable roof in that sense. So when they do kind of team events, et cetera, they try to find things that are sustainable. So one of the activities they were doing for their team events was coming to me, and we were doing vegan tours together, which was interesting because
that's really cool.
Exactly. You would think that there would be so many people that are vegan at Oatly, but it's really, it's not the case necessarily. And they aren't as, they don't know as much as you would think, but I think it's totally normal because, you start in a company and you share certain values, but it doesn't mean everyone has the same story or
very true.
Does the same things to contribute to this movement. So it was really interesting and they learned a lot. And then, they also really enjoyed having someone to talk to and to, give them tips on what else they could do within their company. And we're currently thinking about doing sort of an onboarding program for anyone who's new that they could do with my course. So that's sort of where we linked together, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I love that they did the tour. Do you find that most companies have a good understanding of how to be more sustainable, or is it more they're in the middle or they have no idea what's happening?
Do you mean specifically when they come to me with a request?
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you went generally with that could be a wild conversation or a long conversation.
That's true. Companies that come to me are usually already somewhat aware. I don't think I get companies that are completely unaware of sustainability. It's usually people that, or at least people within the company that want the company to be more sustainable. So either one of those, it's either the person is someone who's interested and has some knowledge on sustainability, or the whole company is within the sustainability movement and they just want to, do a team event, or they want to further their expertise and try to see, with a workshop, what else can we do? I had one client that we did a workshop with, and they were already doing so much, but they were trying to really completely go zero waste within their company. Yeah, and they had their own yogurt in glasses and stuff like that for the employees. So it was crazy. I was actually really surprised, and I was like, what am I going to tell you? You're already doing so well.
They should be a case study for other companies.
I know.
Just trot them around everywhere in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Aside from companies, you also worked with individuals. I really enjoyed your green living quiz, although I will say I thought that I was maybe a bit greener than it told me. But your weekly tips have been really helpful for making small improvements, and they haven't been anything crazy. And so that was a really nice, way to kind of bridge that gap. What do you think the biggest barriers are for people when it comes to becoming more eco-friendly in their daily life?
I think really a lot of it is about mindset. I think what I said before is just targeting that need for it to be more fun, to be more real, to be something that is not taking away from your life, that is adding to your life. And I think that's the big thing. You really want to show people that it gives you more and not less. And I think people are very scared of that. I think they're very scared that something will be taken away, and they're scared of that change, And it's also, it is confronting yourself with the reality of things and how the world is kind of evolving. So a lot of people like to look away. It's obviously a lot easier. And yeah, I think that's where it starts when you look into, when you kind of, find that courage within yourself to say, I want to live more sustainably and I'm going to make an effort. to have someone to come to and to take you on that journey. So you're not that alone and overwhelmed with all the things that come with it. And, ultimately to have that feeling of, wow, this is actually so great. And then people realize it wasn't taking away anything. It's adding so much. You feel so much more comfortable. You just really know what you need in life, and it makes things so much more clear. And I think, I think it really helps people on so many levels.
I think that's a really interesting point, the connection of like things becoming clearer when you start to focus on, I don't know, you want to say having less, but being more intentional about what you have. I think maybe it creates a little bit more appreciation for those things, you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. More appreciation for what you have and also more clarity on what you need. I have an exercise within the course where you pack your backpack. You can do it, in real life, or you can do it just in your mind. But ultimately, it just teaches you what you really need. So it's just about, look around, look into your apartment, and what are things, if you had to go on a journey for half a year, what would you take? And you only have this backpack, like what goes with you? And that really breaks it down for you. If you really start thinking about that and you really start packing, you understand that, oh, wow, you have your favorite sweater, you have maybe a face cream, whatever that you really want and need. But you're not going to take your whole bathroom toiletries. You know what I mean? So you really understand, oh, these are my real needs. This is what I really value. And that's what I really need. And that that gets you very far, and it makes life a lot, like it declutters your life as well.
Yeah, right. Good point. I think we can all probably use some decluttering. I am the queen of getting rid of stuff. It drives my husband absolutely up the wall. But I still find stuff. I was like, I don't need this. I need to get rid of it. And he was like, can you stop? But it is like a very nice feeling to like get rid of stuff, get down to what you really need, for sure.
Yeah.
And so talking about your course, what are some things how long is it? What do people learn? What can they expect to get out of it?
So with the course, it's all in all, just me talking is about 3 hours. So it's really condensed. It doesn't, because it would be overwhelming if it was like weeks and weeks. But it's set up so you can do it week by week. And it's very individual because it's on demand. So you don't have to, tune into classes that are scheduled at a certain time. Because I wanted to make it very inclusive for anyone doing anything, really. So it goes for about 3 hours. And we kind of touch on all areas of life. And it's a lot about mindset as well, to really, because for me, essentially, it really comes down to your mindset changing rather than, what toothbrush do I use? Though I do go into that. So it starts off kind of on a meta level where I just try to talk to my students about, to change their mindset and to make them realize what they really need and how the world is set up and, all these things that they've been taught that maybe just aren't true, and where happiness lies, etc. And then we really go into all the things we can change piece by piece within your life, and then all the way down to every area in your apartment, pretty much, like the kitchen, the bathroom, etc. And then there's a database that you can go onto, and then you can, go into the hack and see what you can do, what toothbrush you can choose that's better than the one you may have. And that's pretty much how the course works. And at the end, you're going to be very sustainable and hopefully very happy.
Yeah, right. What if some of the people, what have they shared with you at the end of the course, like changes that they've made in their lives, or I don't know, good stories that have come out of it?
I think the biggest part is really, and I keep repeating myself with this, but it's the mindset that has changed for a lot of people, where it's not really, they're like, some people say, oh, it's so cool. I'm now, they send me pictures. I'm now always cutting the top of my milk carton because I know, wildlife can get caught in it, and it just makes them feel really empowered. Like very small things,
That's really awesome. I didn't think about that either.
Yeah. It's a really small thing, but once you think about it, every time you feel like, oh, maybe I saved a turtle's life with this, It might sound crazy, but you never know. It just might, I was at the beach and I was sharing with my community. I was showing them, because I keep showing them this in Berlin, and it feels detached because we're not, near the ocean. Sure. But then I was traveling near the ocean and I found one, and it wasn't cut through. And I was telling them through my story on Instagram. I was like, look, this is exactly what I always talk about. Here it is, all the way coming from somewhere, because it's not from here.
Right.
So it does happen. And that, that journey. And so it's small things like that, where I'm always surprised also that small things can matter so much. But I think it's feeling that purpose and feeling like you can be part of the movement. I think that's really important for people, not to feel like they're powerless, and this is just all happening on a political level. We need to be political and we need to engage because it's really important, but you also need to feel like you yourself are empowered and you can have an impact. You can, and I think that's why it's such a different feedback. Some tell me small things and tell me changes that they made, or telling me, I always now use a bamboo toothbrush rather than a plastic one, and I feel so good. And then I compost it, and oh my God, and I'm reusing it because I didn't know I could do that, as other things and so on. And then there's people who are just like, oh my God, my mindset has changed so much. I just feel so much clearer. I literally feel like I decluttered my head. It's kind of the feeling, because a lot of people don't do that. I mean, for you, that's probably like, well, it makes sense because I hate having too many things, but there's so many people who don't do that. So I think that really helps, and just having a different awareness and just learning about facts as well. So they just kind of feel like they see the world through a different lens now. That just opens up a whole nother way of living and participating in communities and society.
Yeah, I love the idea of giving people purpose, because no matter where you are in the world, it doesn't matter your political leanings, it doesn't matter what's going on. I think so many people feel detached and that they're helpless and they can't make change. They can't affect, anything to move one way or the other. But that's absolutely not true. And there are always things that, we can do in our daily life to make change, like right down to finding that crazy, it's a milk cap, or
like if you have an Oatly carton, for instance, and the cap, and then you take it off, and usually it has another,
like the pull tab.
Yeah, exactly. You know how that's a circle, right? It's like this, and then you pull it. And so this circle, that's like the typical danger for wildlife in the ocean, like marine life gets caught in this. Fish get caught in it, and then they grow inside of it, and turtles get caught in it, and they die. And it literally, it kills them often. So it's just a common thing. So yeah, that's the small thing. And what you said is absolutely true. Because I have this conversation a lot with people about what should I be doing? Should I be doing something, me as an individual, or should I be involved in politics? And often it's a feeling of it's one or the other for people, And then they argue against each other, which I think is so unproductive, because really we need both things and we need them to connect, and we don't need people fighting against each other. It's kind of, this from the vegan world. People fighting, should I eat honey? Should I not eat honey? And it's like, guys, you're already doing such a great job. This is such a waste of energy. Like we have so much to give and so much greatness to share. And let's stay positive and, go into the world with that mindset rather than taking each other down. And I think that's the same thing with, do I act on a political level or do I act on an individual level? And really, my opinion always is, and what I tell people, you need to start with yourself to feel, like you said, to not feel helpless and to feel like you make an impact or you have an impact. And it does matter what you do. And, because it does. You go into the supermarket and you see all these vegan options now, like the aisle is growing and growing. That's because people are changing their consumption. That's not just all of a sudden there. It doesn't just happen politically because a politician decides now we're having more vegan food. That's not that's not how it happens.
Exactly.
So I think it's so important to have that level, and through that you learn so much and you understand so much. And I think it needs that initial understanding to even get political, because otherwise you're so detached. You don't even know what you need. You're going into politics and you don't really understand, what am I even asking for? Yeah. But once you get on board with becoming more sustainable as an individual, you also see the problems. And then that makes people more motivated to act on a bigger level. And I think that's why I always say, I think it matters what we do as individuals. It's not just something where we can say, oh, whatever, I'm not using that straw. It's not going to change anything. Yes, it's going to change something. First of all, because, we're so many people on this earth. If we all think that way, then we're doomed. And second of all, it's something that gets you started, and that brings knowledge, and that makes you want to do more and to feel empowered that you can do more. And that's also where I'm at right now, is also I'm doing both. I'm doing my individual things, but I'm also involved in politics to get climate action to move and to become better and to go quicker and whatnot. So really it needs both things and they need to connect, and we can't go one or the other. And we need everyone's help really to make this happen.
Yeah, I think that connects well. I think you posted this on Instagram about we don't need a million people doing everything perfectly. We need a million people really trying their best or doing things imperfectly, something along those
Like
lines.
we don't need 10 people doing it perfectly. We need a million people doing it imperfectly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And trying to, affect change. And, it comes down to consumer demand. If consumers are demanding something, then, companies will respond to it. If there's no demand for it, companies, sadly, they aren't driven by ethics. They're driven by their bottom line. So they're going to be like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make change if people aren't going to pay for it. And
Completely.
I think that is so important for sure. So we touched on this a little bit. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to say there's a really good example in Germany right now, because we have a, I guess butcher, I don't even know if that's what you call it now, but a meat, a produce person. What do you call that?
Do they just focus on meat, or do they?
They only do meat for the supermarket. What's that called?
Oh yeah, a butcher. Yeah, butcher is correct.
Yeah, still a butcher.
Yeah. Sadly.
Okay, so it's a brand. So I'm not sure. Yeah,
okay, wow.
How it, like if you buy cold cuts in a package, like that brand, I guess they can just call it a brand.
Oh yeah, I guess that would be cold cuts.
Meat
you
brand.
could call it, or like deli meat.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a good example in Germany. We have a deli meat brand, and they were doing only animal products, right? So they were doing only meat. And then the vegan movement started, and all of a sudden they really went into that market because they saw potential. And like you said, they didn't go into it because of ethics. They just went into it because of consumer demand.
Correct.
So so they started, and they were starting to roll it out, and it got so popular and the demand was so high that now they're making more money off of vegan products than off of meat. And and the biggest
I love this.
I know. And the biggest news now is that like their biggest product. So in Germany, like meat is really big, and let's just say like salami. Let's call it salami. There's a German equivalent, and that's like a German favorite, right? So every German wants to eat this on their bread on a Sunday morning. And that product, they now only do the vegan version. They've completely cut out the non-vegan version with meat. So even meat eaters now can't have that. They can only have the vegan version because they've decided it's just so much more popular and it makes more sense. So it just shows we can really have such a big impact. And the vegan community, guys, if you're listening, you really have an impact, and you should keep going. It's just, you really, you're saving animal lives. You're helping the environment so much. You're essentially working towards a better future that we can live on this planet,
Hey there, fantastic listeners. Let's hit pause on this episode for a thrilling announcement, a golden ticket to Globetrot with Veggies Abroad. Veggies Abroad isn't just your go-to for vegan guides and trip planning tips. It's your passport to extraordinary small group journeys, carefully crafted by the ultimate veggie pusher and your favorite podcast host, me, Rebecca Gady Sawicki. I've spent countless hours researching the best vegan hotels, food, and experiences, and now I'm bringing those experiences directly to you. Join me and my newfound veggie pals on escapades to exciting and exotic destinations around the world. Whether it's trekking through the Thai jungle to witness elephants in their natural habitat, or staying at a carbon-neutral camp in Kenya during the Great Migration, our adventures are nothing short of spectacular. And guess what? Those aren't the only exciting trips awaiting you. So what are you waiting for? Cruise on over to veggiesabroad.com pronto. Well, how about after this episode is over, to explore our dazzling lineup of 2024 trips and secure your spot on your next vegan adventure today. Oh my gosh, I love that. There's actually kind of a similar story here in the Detroit area. There's an ice cream place that started off with dairy options and vegan options, but the vegan options were always more popular. And so they're like, well, I'm not going to keep buying this. We'll just fully embrace this whole vegan thing. And that's been amazing. And they have been able to grow and do other things. And it's just like, it's really fantastic when you see that. And it's really nice to push that back on people when they're like, you won't affect any change. Nobody wants your vegan crap. And you're like, nah, people actually do. And it's quite tasty.
Exactly. I was going to say, and it's that vegan crap, really, it has changed. I mean, if you're going to talk about it's all tofu, it really is not anymore. Like and you can't even tell the difference anymore for a lot of products. So that's not a valid argument anymore.
No, absolutely not. This moves really well into what I was going to ask you next, which is about your vegan food tour throughout Berlin. Did the food tour kind of start before you did the Green Living Academy and the sustainability work, or did they kind of start in tandem? And why did you think that that was a good thing to add into what you were already doing?
I started with the vegan tours, and then I incorporated the tours into the bigger concept of the Green Living Academy, which is kind of what I used for any venture that I sort of come up with. And for now, it's just those two things. And it all kind of comes together with, I want to show this different side to sustainability. And I want it to be something we can enjoy and we can learn. And, there's just a really positive environment that I would like to create, or that I am creating or created. And so the vegan tours were the first thing I did that I started in Berlin. And that really came from that urge of, okay, I really want to show people how great this is. And, I want to tell them about my story. I want to show them how great Berlin is for veganism. I want people to travel here and experience this. I want them to have an alternative food tour as well, so because I know from experience, I'm sure you know this too, you go somewhere and pretty much I think you had a meme about this as well on your channel, that it's just like this adventure. You got on this adventure and it just completely circles around you finding vegan food when you're traveling.
That's exactly right. So, yes, absolutely.
All you do. And so knowing that for myself, I was like, oh my God, this would be so cool to have a vegan tour and people could, enjoy all the great vegan food without having to like Google everything and figuring it out. And, you're in a different country, it's a different language, opening hours, etc. So I just thought that was really cool. And the funny part is that I originally thought it was going to be a lot of vegans coming to the tour, which there are, but more so there are non-vegans.
Really?
Which I think
that's super surprising.
It is, but it's great because I actually get to really have so much more of an impact with them, because I have a lot of vegetarians who are just sort of on that verge of like, I'd like to go vegan, but I'm not sure. And is there can I substitute an egg? I always have eggs. I'm not sure how to do this. So for them, really, it's kind of a helper to, while still having fun and you're exploring the city, but at the same time, they're learning and they kind of, sometimes overcome that hump and they're like, oh, I'm going to go vegan now because you showed me it makes so much sense and there's so much options. And oh my God, the supermarket, I'm going to buy all these things. I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
And even carnivores, like a lot of times, it's a family booking and there's like 2 people that are vegan and then they drag everyone along.
Oh, I love that.
On the tour. Yeah. So it's literally, I'm doing, it's activism. And it's really fun and you get to talk to people and you get to learn so much about, what frightens them and where they see, and it's funny because sometimes for me, it's like, oh, I didn't even know that was like something people worry about or that's something that keeps them from going vegan. That can be solved so easily, that they think, oh my God, but because there's been so much misinformation, they're like, oh, I'm a man and I can't live without protein. And I can tell them so many good things and help them on that journey and give them lots of resources, because that's a big part of the tour as well, is I always kind of target it to the person and their needs as much as I can, talking to everyone and then just kind of seeing where they at and what do they need. So yeah, I think that's really funny that I have so many vegetarians / carnivores on the tour that
I love that.
Yeah. And then, often I get messages like, oh, this is so great. And I tried these recipes and so on and so on. So it really has an impact.
Yeah. So if you've had people who are really reluctant to do the tour, by the end of the tour, do they say like, oh my gosh, this actually was pretty tasty? Do you see a change in them?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've seen it so many times. They're kind of skeptical at the beginning, often it's, daughters and they bring their fathers and whatnot. And then, I'm not sure, and then they eat all this stuff. And what I hear most is, oh my God, I wouldn't even know the difference. Like, is this actually not meat? Like they can't imagine that it's not. It's just because I think they just still have this prejudice of everything's tofu and it tastes like nothing. And I think that really surprises people when they go on the tour, because here in Berlin, we just have such high quality food, like high quality vegan food. And I think it's just opening that door and that world to people. It's you're kind of getting like the deluxe treatment on this tour of, if you've never touched base with veganism, it's just like, wow, look at all this. I didn't even know this existed. So yeah, there are a lot. I think what's really important, they're so much more open to it at the end, you've taken that prejudice down, and then they're just kind of open. And I think it makes it a lot easier for family members as well, that are vegan, and they take these people on the tour. And then after that, they have such a baseline that they can talk about, and they had this experience together, and they laughed and they met people. And I think it just helps, especially younger people, when, you're in a family.
It helps break down barriers, I think, and, break down the stereotypes that are maybe associated with being vegan, and show people that it's not maybe what you had in mind. So that is really neat. I really love hearing that. So some technical parts of the tour, where does it go? How often do you run it? How many stops are there?
So you can definitely find everything. I've put all the details on my website. So if you go to the greenlivingacademy.com, you can find all the information on what stops we do and how long it goes, etc. But yeah, it's 3 hours long, and we have a multicultural experience, because Berlin is just such a great place where you have so many cultures that come together, and so many people that have veganized their cuisine. So you get kind of a taste from all around the world, which is great. And we also visit the first fully vegan shopping complex, which is unique to Berlin, where everything within that building is vegan. And we don't just do food. We also have stops where we visit a fair fashion store, and also think about other aspects of veganism, because often it's surprising to people when they come on the food tour, but it's also sustainability is within the title. So they expect that veganism only focuses on food, which is the majority of it, because we want to eat and we want to have fun, right? But it's also really great because I have so many people buying on the tour within the fair, because I take them to 2 fair fashion stores, just because it's such a unique place to be and to see. Oh my gosh, it goes beyond that, like leather. Oh wow, right, that's not vegan. My shoes aren't vegan. It's like this realization process is always very funny. So so that's what we also visit. And then I tell lots of stories, very personal stories, or my tour guides tell very personal stories about the places, because I try to also go only to very local businesses to support them. And they have great stories and they're great people. So that's always fun. And often we get to meet the owners and they have little chats with them and they can ask questions. So that's really great. And they have such a big impact. They do like lots of great community work as well. So you kind of get a taste of the real Berlin, and it's in a neighborhood that is not your main neighborhood that, tourists go to. So everyone's always really excited because you're going into this real Berlin and you're getting to experience Berlin with a local, and you're going to all these cool vegan places. And we also do food that is more of a cuisine, high cuisine, like, what do you call high cuisine? No, that's not the word.
Like fine dining?
Yeah. So we go to fine dining places, but we also go to very like hole in the wall types of places.
Oh, I love that.
We have the typical currywurst. I don't know if you've heard that word.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. So that's a sausage, very Berlin sausage. So we kind of do a little experience of the whole world, and just all of it is vegan and fun, and we meet new people and exchange stories, and just have a good time without judgment of anyone. And it's very inclusive, very safe.
I love that you kind of bring it full circle with the shopping part of it and the food part of it, because then you're right. It is like a light bulb going off and people are like, oh my gosh, the things in my closet. I never thought about how that could impact water use or air quality or cruelty. So that's really fantastic, because I think a lot of times food tours focus solely on food, which is fun. But I love that you kind of weave all of that in there. When you incorporate the sustainability part of it, are there things that people are really surprised by when they find out kind of like the impact that it has in their daily life that they haven't thought about?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's with the leather, it often is really a big deal when I tell them about the water use and how the tanning process is absolutely not eco-friendly.
Yeah.
And I think that part of sustainability really gets them thinking that not just the food, but everything else kind of has an impact. We also go to a vegan gym, which is kind of a fun little stop.
I didn't know one existed in Berlin.
Yeah, exactly. So that's Berlin for you. Berlin is just like really cool. It's a weightlifting gym, and we just go in front of it. But I just talk about, just this toxic masculinity spectrum of, we need protein, and I'm a man, I need meat, and all of this, and because it's just really great for men.
Or soy will give you boobs.
Exactly. So wouldn't that be the number one thing
selling
to
supplement?
sell?
Yes.
Yeah, if that worked. So I think seeing other areas that you're not expecting. So this is like insider knowledge. That's not. I don't write this on the page, but yeah, we also go to a vegan gym, and it's a little surprise, where people are like, oh my god, and then I ask, what's not vegan about a gym, and that just kind of gets people thinking like, oh my god, that's also not vegan. Oh my god, yeah, right. We're using animals for not just shoes. We're also using them to do sports, and like, whoa, what's happening? And so I think that really gets people thinking. It makes them understand full circle what sustainability means in our life.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. Do you think that there's a specific reason why Berlin really embraced this? Is it because maybe the government is seated there, or is it, the mix of people? Because it is really, unique that Berlin has so much.
I think Berlin is a place that brings together anyone who wants to change something in the world or has something that they're passionate about. And I think that's essentially what starts any movement in the city. And the nice thing is, I always say, Berlin is really free. So we walk down the streets and we may have completely different opinions, but we respect each other, and we respect each other for wanting to do more and to not leave this world as it is. And I think that vibe and that feeling is in the air in Berlin. And that has to do with politics sitting here, of course. There's a lot of political decision-making happening in the city, which is why there's a lot of demonstrations obviously going on, in Berlin. But there's just so many passionate people that want to change the world. And I think that's why Berlin has this movement. I think that's why sustainability started, because there's so many people that think beyond in the city that want to change something. And in that sense, it's vegans that come here and, are saying, I don't want this to continue. I don't feel like this is how the world should be. And then, they start vegan restaurants and vegan places. And we have like the craziest things. That's why I love Berlin. We have a vegan sex shop, things like that exist here. I know.
That's a new one for me as well, too.
I know.
Love that.
Yeah, you have anything and everything. And that's what I'm saying. It's just so open here. It's so inclusive. Yeah. And people just want to change the world. And I think that's what really makes Berlin so unique and so vegan friendly and sustainable.
Yeah, that is really fantastic. So this is a travel podcast, so I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. Are there sustainability tips that you have for travelers?
Oh yes, of course. There's also a segment on that in the course, of course.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
There was also a question in your quiz too. And I was like, I want to answer like yes, but sometimes I get stuck in something. But there was no yes, but answer.
No, and again, there's no judgment, right? I mean, everyone's doing the best they can, and you can't have all the knowledge in the world. It's not, you can't expect everyone. We need to change. Change is a good thing. If you're changing, great, you're doing something right because you're growing.
Yes.
And for travel, I think, first of all, if we're traveling, I mean, everyone knows you have your carbon footprint. And if you're flying around the world, that's not the greatest thing to do for the environment per se. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, I think you need to make conscious decisions, what really benefits your life and where you thrive and what makes you very, very happy. And then you can, according to that, you can make decisions and you can cut certain things out and you leave other things. And if travel is something that you're very passionate about, and it's just something that makes you very happy or really, opens up your it just really widens your horizon, which is something it does for me, for instance. Yeah. I'm sure you would agree. It's how I got started with all of this, right? So who would I be to say don't fly? I think it's more about you can definitely offset your carbon footprint. That's a really easy thing, and it still has a big impact. And you could really consciously think about when you want to fly. Could I be taking, do I need to make so many stops? Do I have to visit these places in a certain, do I have to fly to Asia and then fly to Hawaii and then fly back to,
Right, exactly,
trying to, if you're traveling, travel consciously. Think about, every step you're taking and just figure out, could I be doing it in a more sustainable way? Is there a shorter way? Could I take the train, maybe fly there, but then take the train? So that's a big one. And that's the biggest, looking at carbon, that's the biggest impact you can have. But then as we talked about, there's also individual things you can do, of course. For instance, you can bring, if you want to avoid bringing so much plastic into the world, a great example you can set on a plane, for instance, is bringing your own cutlery. So you can bring, so you could have wooden cutlery. You can buy them, there's different ones, metal and bamboo. And you can bring those on the plane, for instance, and, just refuse the cutlery and just cut it with that. And even when you're traveling and you're out, often that happens. I'm sure you've had it where you're like, oh, I need, to buy something. And then and then you don't have it. And traveling, I think, is one of the worst places for takeout. You're using so much takeout. And you can really avoid that and reduce it at least, just consciously think about, do I need this takeout box? Can I maybe just eat it in the restaurant? Do I really need to take it home? Can I bring my own cutlery, my own Tupperware to take it away so I don't waste food if I, don't finish my meal? Things like that. It's really bringing your reusable water bottle everywhere so you can just fill it up instead of buying plastic water bottles all the time. All these things. And of course, your activities also matter a lot. Setting an example and really giving businesses the right direction. You don't want to be going on a safari maybe with riding an elephant or whatever. There's other things you can do, and I think realizing that and supporting businesses that you stand behind and that they're doing something that you can get on board with and you support. So I think in the end, again, changing your mindset and consciously traveling. I think that's the biggest thing when you're traveling. Be conscious about things that you're doing and see where you can avoid unnecessary waste and unnecessary behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people, think about your daily life. You probably are, very militant about looking at labels, investigating what a company does, thinking twice about, do I buy this product or do I buy that product? Move that same thought process to travel and be critical of, where you're booking, where you're going, when you're doing it. And that can make a really good, big impact to the community that you're visiting, to the environment, to the animals. It's, we can't be critical in one part of our life, but not all. We just need to move that lens over and do it for everything. And I think a lot of people are like, yeah, because time's limited, or you see something on Instagram. Instagram drives me nuts, by the way. That's a separate podcast episode. But it can matter. It does really matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that too. I think that's something. When you're saying Instagram drives me nuts, there was this moment in time when, travel influencers were showing all these great spots. And I think that's also something that you can really take on any travel. Yes, it's great. They're showing these great spots, but environments have been destroyed because people go there, they take the picture and then they leave their trash. And it's just such a, such a shame. And it really doesn't have to be that way. So being more mindful of the environment and really respecting rules and maybe not getting the perfect shot, is okay.
Yes, it's okay. Right.
Okay.
Your Instagram feed will forgive you. We promise.
You will survive. People will still think you're cool.
That's exactly right. So my last important question for you: what's your favorite vegan-friendly city in the world, and why?
Well, Berlin. What am I going to say?
Obviously.
I just love Berlin so much. It just has such a good vegan community, and from all over the world. It just has so many dishes. I can go. And that's what I love. I can just go anywhere and, I can go have food from Yemen, vegan food from, where can you have that? It's such a unique thing, everything you can have vegan in Berlin. So for me, it is my favorite city for sure. I'm trying to think if there's
A
anywhere
runner-up?
else. Yeah, if there's anything else that I would say maybe comes close. Oh yeah, I have a city. And it's Ubud, Bali.
Ah,
That is
yes.
a haven. Yeah. That's actually when I first went vegan. I was traveling, like I said, and then I went to Bali, and that was such a big help because in Ubud you have a big vegan community, a big yogi community. So it kind of goes along those lines of sustainability and very conscious
lifestyle,
consumption.
sure.
Exactly. And, it has its downsides, obviously, in Bali. I wouldn't necessarily say everyone go to Bali now because that little island is just, there's too many people and they're really struggling. But I had the privilege of many years ago going there. And it really helped me because it opened my mind. I was like, oh my God, there's so much good vegan food. I didn't know this existed. So it's a really small town. It's not a metropolitan city, but it's a place that's small, but yet has so much amazing vegan food that I've rarely encountered around the world.
That's awesome. There are also quite a few like very vegan friendly or like almost completely vegan hotels there as well too. I think it kind of connects back to the whole yogi concept there, which is really nice. So you have choice, which we don't always have choice with those kinds of things when we visit somewhere.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. So if people want to connect with you, learn more about your work, join your program, how do they do that?
You can sign up on my webpage. It's green-living-academy.com. And then you can just go to Academy and you can sign up for the next round of online courses to open. They always open and close. So it's you just sign up and then I'll let you know when the next round is going up. And if you want to connect, you can, of course, follow me on Instagram. It's also just Green Living Academy. And you can learn a little bit there. And yeah, if you want to book a vegan food tour, I already told you that I'm going to give all the listeners a 10% discount if you write to me. Yay! Summer plans are made off to Berlin.
Absolutely.
So just go through my webpage and you'll find the green tour and just send me a request through my webpage. With the subject Veggies Abroad, and then you will receive your 10% discount. And I'm looking forward to anyone who's in Berlin. Let's connect, let's have fun, and yeah, just grow the vegan community. I'm excited.
That's awesome. I'll also put that in the show notes too for people so you can copy and paste that out and send Manja an email. And I hope you're all considering Berlin for your next trip. Awesome. Manja, it was fantastic talking with you. I'm so glad that we connected, and I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. It was so much fun. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. If you'd also like to learn more about upcoming Veggies Abroad tours or get additional travel help, visit veggiesabroad.com and also join our newsletter. It's the best way to stay up to date with loads of new content, like where to find gorgeous vegan hotels, what to eat in cities around the world, trip planning tips, and so much more. Well, that's all I've got for now. Until next time.